Hey, welcome to a Boostlit production. I'm Brian, and tonight we're going to be looking at my portfolio. So right now we're looking at my cover page, and I started things off with a quote by John Darnielle. Life is entirely unthinkable without any of the creative arts, and they're all a continuum. The force in question is creativity, not its mode of expression. And I think that's really applicable to what we've been doing this semester, because we've been creating creative works in all kinds of different ways, but they've been using a lot of the same recurring themes. A lot of them have been using things like arranging, intensity, layering, and a lot of those themes have resurfaced throughout all the different works we did. Like with the audio essay, we created an entirely audio response to a work of poetry, and we either connected it to a cultural angle or to a personal one. And with our videos on the road, we responded to a work of literature, and we used a combination of visual and auditory moves there. And with e-poetry, we had the chance to create poetry ourselves and respond to it then with using visual and auditory elements. So we've been expressing ourselves in all kinds of different ways, but we've been using a lot of the same techniques. So to start things off, we have my sound list. And I did my sound list on a character from Kira called Tetsuo. And in the sound list, I used a lot of arranging and layering together. So, for example, I have a couple different pieces of music here. One piece is by Kanye West and another is by the Mars Volta. But paired with that, I have some non-music and non-traditional music, like I have a performance art piece and some ambient noises from a factory, as well as a drone piece. And I wanted to create with layering some of the different kinds of audio responses that I had to the character lined up in an interesting way. So I begin things with the performance art piece, and then I kind of bring it back to center with a piece of music, and then go to something more abstract with the factory noises, and then return to music again. So I wanted to create an interesting dynamic, not just to have three pieces of music, one right after each other, but to break it up with some of the more eclectic sounds. And coming up right after this, we have my original draft of the sound list. So here you might notice there are some formatting errors, and that is intentional. I wanted to preserve authenticity to my first draft of my sound list where it wasn't quite solidified in formatting and there's some errors there, so I wanted to keep that faithful to show the growth that I've had in the final draft of the sound list since then. So be sure to check that out. So with the audio essay, one of the main composing techniques that was in play was intensity. So I noticed that if I recorded at different times of the day, like if I recorded my voice starting early in the morning, the intensity would be stronger than if I did it late at night. So something I had to work on was looking back and making sure that there was an even tone and even intensity and volume and pitch and narration and all of those things combined to create a seamless audio piece. And really the final draft I think is a lot stronger than the first draft, and I discussed that a bit and more in the reflection and the revisions process. But yeah, diction and word choice and narration were really important to making the audio essay. Hey, so right now we have e-poetry, and this was some of my favorite work I did this semester. Right now we're watching the performance e-poem, and with this poem we pulled together a bunch of different materials, auditory, videos, and text, and a piece of poetry, and tried to make it play together all at once in one take without a hitch. But I chose to edit that version for my edited e-poem, which we worked on a little later in the semester, and I tried to replicate the same thing but overall improve the quality and have things run a lot smoother, and I think they did. And some of the main composing techniques we used here were layering. As I did in the performance piece, I layered videos on top of each other so that they wouldn't have, we can see here if we open this up a little bit bigger, in between the visual elements, I wanted to create this empty negative space right here because I thought it looked neat and clean to have that, and I did that all throughout the poem. I wanted to keep that negative space and create a balance, symmetrical balance on both sides of the canvas. But I then edited that version for my final draft of my e-poem, and some of the differences there is I cleaned up some of the text. I started to use callouts instead of using Windows Notepad, and I think you can really see the difference. Like, if we take a look at this, that's a callout, that where it says whose woods these are, I think I know, versus right here where that's a notepad. I think the difference looks a lot better, but I go into all those changes and more on my walking through sound video, where I really detail a lot of the in-depth processes I took and what it looks like to create a video like this. And you can see Camtasia is up and running there, and I go through all those changes. So be sure to check that out. Alright, so next up we have the video response to the road page. And for the road video, we had to respond to chosen elements from the book and replicate those with visuals on screen. And we had a lot of freedom here to create a video response that encapsulated what we thought about the road. And I go through some of the reflections I had and some of the struggles I had with creating this video on the page. And you can see some of the differences in my first draft to the final draft, which is right down below. For instance, in the first draft I used this video of people exploring a mall, an abandoned mall, and there's destruction and debris everywhere. And upon reflection, I found that to get a better translation to the text, I could use similar kinds of videos but exploring abandoned houses, and I found that was something that people actually did. In the book The Road, they go through these abandoned houses foraging for supplies and for tools and trying to avoid other people and things like that. And some of this decrepitude and destruction I see in some of these videos symbolizes, for me, a lot of what I found the text to be about. So I also try to make some one-to-one ratios from the text in my video. For example, I found on YouTube a video of a guy opening and playing with a sextant, and it is right here. Yeah, so this is one of those things where I thought there would be a lot of videos of sextants on YouTube, but it turns out there's only a few, and so you never really know how it's going to turn out until you start doing it. But being able to have that revising process really helps elevate the quality of my draft here. Hey, so that brings us back to the beginning. I hope this video has been helpful if you're creating a portfolio of your own, or you can take a look at my revisions video for my audio essay or for my e-poem to see what goes into making those kind of revisions and updating those drafts. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.